Good day traders, welcome to this week's Market Fix. My name is John Jacobs for RMDTRADER and I look forward to presenting to you with this week's price predictions and chart analyses of all your favorite market instruments. We start with a quick look at our disclaimer before we will be jumping right in, looking at what is happening in the crypto market and also how you could be benefiting from a major move that I'm expecting in gold. This week, starting once again by looking at our cryptocurrencies, and we will be looking at XRP and Ethereum as our altcoins, and then ending by looking at Bitcoin. Firstly, when considering XRP at this moment, we can see that it has now broken below this rectangular range that I've identified. That is also part of this larger double top that is starting to play out. We do have some support from this 200 daily SMA at this stage. However, should we lose this level, I'm afraid there is a very good chance that we will be moving lower towards major support from our yearly R1. And then for the cryptocurrencies, I'm also now using a 365-day moving average. And that is just because we know cryptocurrencies do trade every day of the week, and that means it will be trading 365 days in a year. So that's why this moving average for cryptocurrencies is very important as well. So you can see that support will be probably sitting at 0.537. So those are both bearish targets for XRP. In terms of a possible recovery, we would first need to get back above this level of 0.82. And once that has been reached, we would be looking to get a recovery to the back to the top of that range where we have our yearly R2 pivot, and that is at 1.03. You'll also be noticing that I'm using a slightly different chart now for my cryptocurrencies, and what I'm doing is I'm using a logarithmic chart or a log scale chart. So just based on the way cryptocurrencies trade and based on how they've moved quite progressively and rapidly throughout the last couple of years, it's actually a better chart to be using when looking at cryptocurrencies. Same thing for Ethereum. We can see that Ethereum still has this head and shoulders looming about it, and we are currently very close to that neckline area at 2090. Of course, if we do see a break below that neckline, that would mean we are looking for a possible sell-off to much lower levels. And at this stage, we can see that we do have levels of support at 1,400. And also we have that 365 daily moving average just below 1,250. And that is all possible targets should this head and shoulders start to play out. Of course, there's also the chance of a recovery. So should we find some support from our head and shoulders neckline, the first level that we need to regain here is the weekly pivot. The weekly pivot sitting at 2,325. So if we can break back above that, we would be looking for a recovery back to the top of that right shoulder that's sitting just above the daily 100 SMA, and somewhere in this region north of, let's just say, north of 2,500. So that would be a first target for recovery. And should we be able to get a break above the top of that right shoulder, that will then see a new bullish move towards the previous all-time highs and possible new all-time highs at 4,100 and above. Finally, looking at Bitcoin, I've once again tried to project two possible scenarios on Bitcoin. You can see we're also looking at it from this log scale chart, and what you'll also be noticing is that on this chart we do have this massive possible head and shoulders also looming with a possible target as low as depending on how this plays out, but around 15,000. So very, very much a big bearish target. But for now, let's just have a look at the important inflection points here. The first area of support, major support, will be approached near 33,000, and that goes down to about 30,000, where we also will see support from that important 365, or let's just call it the yearly daily moving average. And of course, you'll also see I have projected possible scenarios as to how this could be playing out. Looking at that possible recovery again, first level that needs to be regained, very important, is that yearly R1 pivot at 37,300 or 37,500. That would be the important area to regain. From there, we will likely see a retest of that area just below the daily 200 moving average and our monthly pivot, and that is sitting at 42,000. And a break above that will start seeing a recovery of first target levels, about 49,600. I'm just going to remove that 365 moving average now, as we won't be needing that for our other instruments. Looking now at gold, we can see that gold has corrected quite aggressively. It is all based on the news revolving around inflation rates in the US. So initially gold did break out of this bearish channel, which was very bullish. It has now retraced up to the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement level that has been calculated from that low over here to that high over there. So you can see that we have our 61.8 Fibonacci retracement level currently at the price where we're trading now. We also can see that previously this area has been an area of support 3 times previously, and likely if we go back we'll see there's another area where that was support, where it was previously actually the resistance. So we are in a very strong area of support. I do suspect that there's a very high probability that we will be seeing a continuation or a recovery from this area. If we do not see that, we will likely see price move lower towards this long-term diagonal support line, and that is sitting at 1,738 to 1,740. So just looking at that path to recovery, the first move would need to be above our daily 100 SMA. That is the 1,800 level. A break above that, of course, we'll start seeing price move higher towards that monthly pivot level, and it would be also the first major area of resistance again at 1,860. Moving on now to our indices. Firstly, looking at the DAX, we can see the DAX has now very strongly rejected that yearly R1 pivot after quite a few tests, currently resting on that, that I realize I've always mentioned to refer to my green line as the 50 moving average, but it's actually the 40-day moving average. So we can see that price is now resting on that as some support. That is quite a strong move down. So it's possible that we might see a slight recovery towards that new weekly pivot at 15,550 before a possible move lower back again into the zone of support, starting at about 15,360, and that would move that moves all the way down towards that lower diagonal support sitting at 15,170. There's of course very strong support from this daily 100 SMA coinciding with the monthly S1 and previous tags of those candles. So yeah, 14,970 also very strong level support should price move into that area. Any break above the 15,750 level, of course, would probably be very bullish with a new breakout towards all-time highs. Looking now at Dow, the Dow has same picture as we saw in the DAX now. Price moving down into this important daily 100 SMA level of dynamic support. That's at 33,180. A break below that will likely see price dipping even lower into this area of support, where we have we do have some horizontal resistance as well as our weekly S2 sitting at 32,385, and possible pullback opportunity as well to that new weekly pivot sitting at 33,670. So a lot of times when we do have a sharp move down like this, it's possible that you will see quite a bit of a bounce back to a support level, and that support level being that weekly pivot before we see continuation or another sell-off. However, if we do recover higher, the big area of resistance now sitting at the monthly pivot 34,280. A break above that, seeing another chance for price to make all-time highs, but first need to test that yearly R1 as well, 34,840. Finally, looking at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ are a little bit more bullish than the others, and we can see that we are at quite an important area of resistance here, and just projecting that dynamic diagonal resistance level. We can see that we have now tagged that, and we are rejecting it for now, still above the new weekly pivot. So good chance that it should price find some support and the buyers start to step in, we will see another move higher. So with a break above the weekly R1 at 14,220, possibly seeing a move higher towards 14,560. However, should price break lower, breaking its diagonal support, and if you see price move into this area of support at 13,800, which is quite likely for this week, if price does break below that, there's more support and very strong support at this level where we have our daily 100 SMA at 13,425. Just looking at a couple of Forex instruments, looking at the USDJPY, we can see it is trying to still break out, and how it has now come back to retest that breakout level from that, let's just call that wedge. And very important to regain the monthly R1 at 110.378. If it can do that, I suspect the first move up would be back towards that dynamic diagonal resistance where it meets up with the weekly R1 at 110.818. However, should it continue to move lower, dynamic support from the diagonal resistance at our weekly S1 at 109.584, and of course a break of that would see price move lower, retesting the daily 100 SMA, also coinciding with a pivot level. That's the monthly S1 at 108.500. Looking now at let's have a look at the NZDUSD. A little bit of a bearish picture we do have here, currently sitting at a very important level of support. We can see there was previously a support level, but a very good chance that for this move we do see a move back towards that 0.677 level, as that was a previous neckline for what was a very big head and shoulders pattern. So either we do see a move or a V recovery from here, or it will probably move lower back towards that neckline. Looking at the Australian dollar USD, it's very much of the same picture. We had a head and shoulders pattern playing out, reaching the target at the daily 200 SMA at 0.554. But now continuing to move even lower. Possible new areas of support include, and I'll just draw a horizontal line for you guys, this level at 0.740. So that would be a possible target as price continues to move down. And any recovery will have to be testing that new weekly pivot and the daily 200 SMA at 0.7555 again. The GBP NZD, very nice inverted head and shoulders pattern still in play. We have that break now, the weekly pivot, a possibility that it will be tested at 1.985. However, any continuation in bullish price action from there will see a move higher towards the weekly R1 at 2.000. Looking at, let's have a look at the GBPUSD. GBPUSD also breaking down from that daily 100 SMA, possibly aiming for that 1.3744 target. That is some previous resistance and also previous resistance that has turned into support. We can actually change that into a support zone. That is actually a bit more accurate sometimes, just identifying it as a zone rather than a level and on its own. So there is a level of support and a possible area of move lower. Of course, once again, any pullback will first have to test that pivot level at 1.389. Concluding with the Euro USD, same picture as the GBPUSD. We can see that we have now invalidated this inverted head and shoulders pattern that did initially break out but then failed, and we call a failed head and shoulders if it takes out the shoulder, the previous shoulders that it has made, and it has done so by breaking below that daily 200 moving average. I do expect a target lower at 1.176. That's where the weekly S1 is sitting, and even lower, of course, if it does eventually break that level, and that will move then to 1.600, which is a previous level of horizontal support. That's a wrap. We hope you enjoyed this week's video. Please remember to support our channel by subscribing. And until next time, remember, trade smart and trade successful.